We're live. Good morning. Good Sunday morning. It's the very first day of September 2024. April Jackson here from Open Up. Super excited to be on. Wesley will be joining us, so he'll tap in probably a third of the way through. But I'm so excited because I have somebody who I consider like an acquaintance, a colleague, a friend. I admire her. Sharise Nance. Hi, Sharise.
Hey, April, thanks for having me on.
I am so happy to have you on. And I've been following you for a long time. And, we've been connected. We've done presentations
Mhm,
together. And
mhm,
um, you were at a conference and you talked about compassion fatigue. And I
mhm.
sat in on it. And I was like, poop, why haven't I invited Sharise to talk to everybody? Like she is the perfect person to have on our Sunday safe spaces. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. It's an honor.
So you are an entrepreneur. You are LCSW, as people see. Like you've been in this field for a very, very long time.
Yes,
You're a runner.
I am. I am. I actually have a race tomorrow.
Do you
I
really?
do. I do. I do.
Good luck. What are you running? If you
It's
don't.
the Steelers 5K, 3.1 miles for people who aren't aware. And us runner jargon in the runner's world, sometimes we'll say, "Oh, it's only a 5K," but I don't want to like minimize how challenging sometimes 3.1 miles is 3.1 miles. But if you're someone who runs a lot or runs long distances, it could just feel like something that's fun and just to get the juices flowing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The state that I am in now, I used to run, but I haven't ran in years.
Yeah.
3.1 miles. I'd be like, Lord,
It's
okay.
like a half marathon if you haven't trained for it or if you're not running consistently, especially in Pittsburgh with these road conditions and the hills and the terrain. It can be so challenging. Yeah,
Yes.
but I'm looking forward to it. Everybody says it's fun, so first time doing this one.
That's awesome. And then it's with the Steelers. Like it's under,
Yeah,
yeah, like
yeah,
that.
I'm a huge fan. So maybe I'll bring them some good luck this year.
Yes. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So you have, am I correct? You have vitamin C.
Yes.
And then you have your actual practice of doing therapy or whatnot. Is that
Hand
correct?
in hand counseling services. I have a partner, Tess Kinney. We've been friends since college. We were college roommates. We met in college and we've worked in the same fields. And we started talking about what if we started this practice together? And we started to practice in 2013. So we'll be celebrating, I can't believe it'll be 11 years in November. 11 years. We've expanded to a group practice and we're growing and we have some new and some new things coming down the pipeline that I really think the community will benefit from, and maybe we can talk about that
Yeah, that would be
another
great.
time. Yeah.
Congratulations on 11 years.
Thank
That's
you.
huge.
Thank you.
Time does go by
It
so.
does. It does. It really does.
We started this in 2000. I can't even remember, but you are episode 44.
Oh wow, that's amazing! Congratulations.
Thank you for being on.
Congratulations.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
just hearing you talk about how the time has gone, and I just thought about it, like 44 episodes.
Yeah. I hope you can do something special for your 50th episode.
Charisse, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, I'm always I have so many ideas. I have to keep a notebook by my bed and I have my notes pad out on my phone so I just write there because you can't implement every idea that comes up, but I at least have them.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Okay. Take a note. Maybe we'll have you on in the 50th. um, so vitamin C healing, right?
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
the name of that. And I know I've heard you talk and you're like, no, I don't sell vitamin C. Can you share with us like what it is?
Yeah, so vitamin C healing. Again, I'm not selling vitamins. I do take multivitamins. I try really hard to subscribe to a healthy lifestyle. But vitamin C is metaphoric for healing of the whole person, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, with the hopes that when people experience me and my services, they will get the same experience and feeling that they get when they take the actual nutrient, vitamin C. My husband, who is also creative mind and full of ideas, came up with that name when I told him the mission behind it, and what I wanted to embody and who I wanted to serve. And it's a great conversation starter.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, it is for me, I'm like, "Tell me more." I,
Yeah.
You talk a lot about compassion fatigue, and one of the
Yes.
intentions of us having you on was to talk about that because, both Open Up that I'm with, we want everyone to have access to wellness and well-being, and
Absolutely.
part of that mission is teaching yoga and classrooms, and we have the studio, and you've been there, and we center folks with disabilities because if you give accessibility to everyone, especially those who are not allowed to have, they're not allowed in our society to have as much access. Um,
Right.
you open it up to the entire world. Um,
Yes.
and so we also recognize that we work in community, we live in community, we love in community, and we have a lot of caregivers, and it gets
Yes.
very challenging. And caregiving in many capacities, a nurse, a parent, a sibling, um, an assistant, that like there's so many support services that
Yeah.
are needed for human beings, period, regardless if you have
Mhm.
your ability. And you really, oh my gosh, like you really hone in on that, and you talk a lot about compassion fatigue and
Yeah.
caregivers can do. So I wanted to open the floor and just have you share some things that you think would support caregivers.
Right. So let me start by defining compassion fatigue because I don't ever like to assume that everybody knows the meaning of it. So, compassion fatigue is a physical and emotional exhaustion that causes a pronounced change in our ability to have empathy for the people we serve, for our colleagues, for our loved ones. And it's often referred to as the cost of caring. I refer to it as the common cold of helping professionals and caregivers. Because if you are in this line of work or service for long enough, you are prone to it. Just like around this time of year, many of us, well, all of us are prone to catching some type of cold or virus or whatever, is floating around. And we've learned that it's about what can we do to build up an immunity to protect ourselves from it. And so that's what I talk about in my workshops. And we actually do hands on strategies because I want people, and I try to keep it simple and practical so that people can use these in their daily regimen. Because what we do know that an evidence-based practice for combating compassion fatigue and burnout is self-care. Self-care is the buzzword. Everybody's talking about it, and there's just so many layers to it. And most importantly, self-care is work. It is about being intentional, it's about being consistent, and it's different from coping strategies. So I want to highlight
Mhm.
that first. So when you think about self-care, when I think about self-care, I think about how can we build a life that we don't feel the need to consistently escape from? It's about constantly asking ourselves, what is it that I need in this moment? Is it that I need to set healthier boundaries? Is it that I need more sleep? Do I need to wake up a little bit earlier? Do I need to go to bed a little bit earlier? Do I need more movement in my life? Do I need to try to incorporate daily walks or stretching or yoga? Do I need to avoid that thing I've been avoiding, like scheduling that doctor's appointment? What is it that I need? Or do I need community? Do I need support? Do I need safe people? What is it that I need in this moment? And how can I give it to myself? Constantly checking in with yourself. And it's about, as far as combating compassion fatigue, building that foundation of self awareness and self compassion along with the self soothing strategies. So, with self care, it's about having a plan and being consistent. And sometimes we can look at it as non-negotiable self-care? What is that one thing that I'm going to do for myself every day, no matter what's going on, no matter what my spouse needs, no matter what the kids needs, no matter what the family member that I'm taking care of or my clients, no matter what is going on, what is it that I'm going to do for myself? For me, it's movement. Every day I'm getting some form of movement, whether it's going for a walk, I'm running, strength training. That is something that makes me feel good. It's something that helps me to decompress. So figuring out what that thing is for you and being consistent. And once we're consistent, it becomes a part of our lifestyle. And we start to look forward to it. So that's one way to take care of ourselves. And then we have self-soothing strategies or coping strategies. So when I think of coping strategies and why they're different, so just think if you have a car, right? And you need a tune-up or an oil change. You're going to do that on a regular basis, right? For some people, maybe it's every 3 months or every year or every 2 years. That's like self-care. That's how we take care of ourselves. But the coping strategy is kind of like the emergency, what you're going to do in the moment if you find yourself on the side of the road and your car is broke down. Okay, I got to access my emergency list of who I'm going to call AAA, or does my insurance have something on store, whoever it is. And as far as with us, what is that coping strategy that you are going to use in that moment? Is there someone that you need to call to help bring you down? Do you need to incorporate some type of bottom up or self-soothing strategies, such as implementing breath work? Do you need to, count backwards from 10? Do you need to put a cold compress on your face? What is it that you need to do in that moment to cope, to get through that crisis? So those are, self-care and coping strategies. So that's at the basics or the foundation of it. Are you frozen, April? I think April is frozen. Okay.
Talk about coping strategies.
I get it. When you're dealing with technology, you have to expect anything and just
Right?
be
Oh my
prepared.
God. Thank you. I had to go get a whole nother laptop.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Oh, thank you
Glad
for
you're back.
your patience, Cherise.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
we were talking about coping versus self uh soothing or no self-care.
Yeah, self-care
Um
versus, coping strategies, which can be self-soothing strategies as well.
yeah, I that was like a light bulb moment for me because I know it, but
Mhm,
I hadn't really thought about it in that way. And I love the way that you differentiate between the two.
mhm.
Is one more important than the other, you think, or do they work in tandem?
Good question. I think they work in tandem, because again, the self-care is your foundation. That's you having a plan and sticking to it. When I'm talking to many of my colleagues, like therapists, social workers, and professional people who are helping people professionally, I remind them like we do treatment plans and care plans and all types of other plans like with our families and the people that we serve. Why would that change for us?
Mm,
We need a plan. And
mm,
sometimes if we get off balance and life happens, we have something to defer to, just like in treatment when we're helping people. And sometimes it can get hard and frustrating. You're wondering like, what are we working on? That treatment plan is kind of like your anchor. It brings everybody like back to the drawing board, back to the plan so that we can be reminded of, okay, this is what we're working on. Is this still fit or have things changed? And that's the same thing for us. So it's important for us to have some type of plan. I know for me, I have a whiteboard and I write things on that whiteboard because I'm a very visual person. And when I
mhm.
see it, it's a visual for me and it becomes real life. And coping strategies, we do need to have coping strategies that we can activate right away because, as they say, life be life in. So
Yeah.
when
That's
life is life in, we need something that we know is going to help us because when we're in the midst of a crisis, we are in fight, flight, freeze. We're in
mhm.
survival mode. So it's hard for us to think about, oh my God, what did she say? What did she say I need to do in this moment? But it's something that we have handy and something that we've been practicing. It becomes organic. So for me, some people love it and some people don't. Breath work is something that I use a lot. And I even splash cold water on my face. It
Yeah,
helps me. Yeah.
yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, like I shared Open Up, we center everything we do around those with disabilities because we want to ensure accessibility for all. Um,
Right.
Wesley, his nonprofit is called Disabled But Not Really, and it really focuses on giving those with disabilities the opportunity to exercise and move and
Mhm.
focus on their nutrition and well-being. Hi, Wesley.
There
I drummed you up. I was just talking about you.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good
everybody.
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Listen, it's been a morning. We started on time. My computer went out, which has happened before. And we are back. And Sharise was talking about self-care and coping strategies. And I was like, well, I just had to implement that.
I'm here for it. Trust me. I was actually I was actually on a trail because of course we normally do this the third
The
Sunday.
third Sunday, right.
So even though I had on my calendar, I got up this morning like it's September 1st, it's Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month. I'm about to get out here and I'm on a trail and I get a 10-minute thing. So I'm like, I had to come back. I was sweating. I still got a little sweat on my face. But
But
yeah.
hey, you're implementing movement. That's one of the best practices. Yeah.
See, there we go. So
We
Those
got
10-minute alerts or,
I know
sometimes
you're
they're
like,
great. Like, oh my God, talk about being in a crisis. Yeah.
yeah, it was a crisis. I was like,
I
"Woo." My wheels was running.
was gonna say you were rolling, huh? I Wes, I want to introduce you to Sharise. I just love her to death, and she was just talking about self care versus coping strategies and the difference between the two. And then I was telling her about disabled but not really, and how it focuses. So she's a runner, and how it focuses on wellness and well-being and nutrition and physical movement. And I was telling her about Open Up. And I love, it is spinal cord injury month. And this is kind of helps get into the next part that I was going to talk about, because in our communities, in the disability community, we all need support. We all need help from others. When you get sick, it's important that you have community. And if you don't, like, what do you do? And what do you suggest for those who are like physically supporting someone who, might be lying in a bed, or having to, like use their physical, like you have to, physically lift people or turn people, or you have to, really be engaged with driving people to and from, like it can be taxing, like even being a parent, Go ahead, Wes.
No, so honestly, it is taxing. So for anyone that's in the I guess in the realm of service, right? Like you're serving someone, rather it's transporting, and you're serving someone that might be in need of service. And so that itself can be a little bit complex. And from personal experience, I can share is that, prior to like the beginning of my injury, before I understood I had to kind of take care of myself and really focus on me too. And somehow in my mind, I felt that everybody that was supposed to serve me already knew what they were doing. And so a lot of things was taxing, because it's just like someone going to the doctor's appointment and feeling like the doctor is supposed to automatically know how to take care of you because you go in there. Right. And again, through this process, I had to learn that just because we're in service, we need to understand, we need to know how to work with you. There's a process, but some people like myself had, when you have no choice but to be served or be helped, then you're thinking that whoever's coming to aid should already know what they're doing. And that could be taxing on mentally. And again, like me and my mom and some of my other individuals that has helped me, we were able to have transparent conversations for me to understand this. But it's to the point where, like, if I'm trying to heal and take care of myself, when do those that are trying to assist me in that do it for themselves as well? And so from a perspective of me being a person and most people being in my position, being the most vulnerable, we have to be able to give those individuals grace too. And those that are caring for individuals, give yourself grace. And what that means is that if you need a day off of the 7 days that you work all week, 24/7, then take a day off and see if someone can replace that position for you. Go find other ways, because it is taxing. It's taxing. It's even more taxing when you're someone that is close, family, friend, and you feel obligated to help. And so that too can be something that you do got to find a way to take care of yourself, because again, service is one of those things that you have to be empathetic and have a heart for it, but you also need to be able to have yourself built in a place where you can kind of withstand some of the things that come at you. Because when you're helping people, you don't know their level of trauma, and that's not an excuse. But what I'm saying is sometimes our work is put on us. And so we have to be able to find a way to separate ourselves from that organic work we want to do, take care of ourselves so that we can bring our full, complete selves into that act of service. Because sometimes that helps the individual you're assisting actually get out of whatever they're in. So I felt that, if someone was just taking care of me from a complacent standpoint or just trying to make sure that I'm okay, it really wasn't helping them be okay. And so I think it's a lot of, it works hand in hand. I have to be able to work on myself to make sure that the work you're doing for me helps, and that we can take care of ourselves outside of that. And then vice versa. You have to take care of yourself so that when I'm receiving your service, I know and I feel that it's empathetic, and I want to grow out of that. I don't want to stay in the same bubble and keep getting the same help. And so that's where I think that's just, again, if you're caring for someone, you're in an act of service, finding things that can really set the tone for you. If you're working 7 to 6 or something like that, you have a busy day, then you have to get up earlier and do something for yourself. You have to find a way to find balance in time and arrangement. And again, like for me, as a paralyzed individual serving now, I have to do all of these things. That's why I got up this morning, got on the trail, because I have to be able to work on myself before I can do anything and pour into anyone else. Like I have to, even if it's just listening to something real quick for 10 minutes to tell me how powerful I am, how beautiful I am, whatever it is, I need that before I go into any act of service, because you don't know who you're serving. That person, that individual could have the worst night, the worst day. They wake up in the worst way. And even though you come in fully blessed and filled, like, you have to understand that you have to build that barrier for yourself. And so I think that self-care is very important for all areas, but also for those that are serving and then those that are being served. Like you cannot be bitter and try to have service. And again, I understand what growth looks like and development to that, but I was bitter before I started taking care of myself. And when I started taking care of myself, I understood why I was bitter, because I wasn't happy with the care I was given. And when you're not happy with the care you give yourself, you're not happy with the care someone else gives you. Um, and so I think that, yeah, take care of yourself, read, affirmations, gratitude, like all of those things are important. But even if it was just 5 minutes to wake up and breathe and say, this is what today is going to look like, I think that too is being able to kind of realm around the self-care. But, and me and April and our tea, right? So, other things that you do too to set the mood, right? Like you don't have to go into a lot, I'm big on food. So whatever you're putting in your body too speaks on the energy that you provide in a day and speaks on the type of care that you give yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. That was good. I had a Wesley quote in there, Wes. Sharise, do you find in your profession, like in, doing therapy and supporting others, does everyone who, I don't know, maybe that's broad, but I would think like everyone at some point, especially in caregiving and, in service of others, I would think everyone might get compassion fatigue at one time. Do you, are there studies around that?
Yeah, that's why I refer to it as the common cold of the helping profession, because we're prone to, you are helping people who are, when you're exposed to their traumas, their stressors, and the things that are going on in your life. I mean, research even shows that that energy, those emotions are more contagious than a sneeze. So while we're calling it the common cold, like these emotions are more like and you were present in my workshop. That's why we start off with that body awareness / emotion contagion activity, so we can be aware of how attuned we are with our bodies and how our bodies respond. Most people aren't even aware that they're holding tension in their shoulders, or the headaches that they're getting, or the change in their body temperatures as a response to the people that they are serving. When we're in that moment, we're being empathetic. Some people say we're empaths. So most of us are mindlessly empathizing. And that's when, that becomes a breeding ground for compassion fatigue. But when we are able to be more intentional and more aware, that's when it turns into that mindful empathy, where we're in that moment. And like Wesley was saying, we understand that the person that we're helping, like they're frustrated, they had a bad night, maybe they didn't get any sleep. So they are going to, lash out on you. And it's probably not even about you. It's about, their experience, what they've been through. You just happen to be the person who is there, who's going to catch it. So in that moment, if we can like take a pause and just recognize what's happening in that moment, what can we do to ground ourselves in that moment? I know for me, like touch is something that's very grounding for me. So if I can hold on to something, or I can feel something, or I can rub something, it helps me to remember I'm in this moment with this person. Or having a hard time, let me just make sure that I'm meeting them where they are. So that's one part to your question. And something else, like Wesley was bringing up so many good and important points. Something else that I thought about in this profession is healing our own traumas as helping professionals, as therapists, as social workers, case managers, whatever you are. Like, we're not exempt. We're humans too. We are impacted by the same things as the people that we are serving. And I know sometimes the people that we are serving, because maybe they hold us up to, on this pedestal, and sometimes to some like unrealistic standards, but we're humans too. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have a bad day. We might not always seem like we're being the most helpful. And that's why it's important for us to not only have a regimen, but to make sure we're doing the work to heal our past trauma. I'm a therapist and I have a therapist. I see her every 2 weeks. I try not to miss unless it's an emergency. Like, I need a space where I can process. Yes, I have a great support system, but there is nothing like having that professional, that safe space that can be there with you in the moment, be objective, help you look at things through a different lens and offer some fresh perspective. Because, as you know, helping professionals, there's a term called countertransference. It's a clinical term. And what that means is, from our standpoint, from the helper standpoint, we sometimes we might deflect, like, the say, for example, we are working with someone and we get triggered. So it's like a trigger response to the people that we are helping. So, for example, maybe they say something or do something, or there's a smell that may remind us from something from our past, and we have a response. And the same thing happens with the people that we help. It's called transference. When clients are having an emotional response or triggered by you, maybe you remind them of someone. Maybe there's a situation that comes up in your interactions. And what it looks like from us, it looks like having a hard time setting boundaries with the people that we're serving, avoiding them, not taking their calls, giving some people extra time. When that's showing up, we don't want to normalize that as, oh, that's just something that comes along with the work that I'm doing. No, that's, there could be some counter transference. Something's going on there. So when that's happening, please reach out for support. If you're someone who has access to a veteran, like a supervisor who's not obviously burned out or compassion fatigue, you want to reach out for that extra supervision. If you're a caregiver, maybe reach out to your support network. I believe there are a lot of caregiver support networks, but don't just like pass that along and just keep on pushing through as, oh, that's a hazard of the job. Yes, it's a hazard of the job. And, it makes us, we become irresponsible and even unethical if we don't do anything about it.
Absolutely. No, that was good. Thank you for sharing. And I was just I was just on I did a workshop for non local nonprofits here in Kansas City, and they
Mhm.
talked about compassion fatigue, because that was, I think it's one of those things that is kind of being highlighted more, so that those that are in service in some way can kind of put terminology into what they're feeling. And so I think that this is really a great conversation to have at the moment. Um, my I have a question. So for in so you spoke about like therapy. Just kind of bringing back, because I've tried to kind of share this kind of with my team and things like that. And so for those that do you have like a recommended, like, not really a like, not source, but when especially Black people, when you talk about therapy and we're trying to figure out like how to navigate those avenues, where's a safe space that you might can recommend for individuals that are in service that might just don't know where to look, because they're the hat, you know what I mean, but maybe they
Mhm.
need, I don't know if there was any recommendations that you guys normally just share, or
Yeah, good question. And I think, with COVID and the pandemic, and everyone realizing, because we had to like kind of like be quiet and sit with ourselves, people are like, I really need a therapist. So it just like skyrocketed. So it made Black therapists even more, it feels like inaccessible with us having these long waiting lists, and we have to be mindful with these high caseloads so that we don't burn out. So what I will say, psychology today, and I'll recommend that very carefully. I know we're on it. I have some other Black colleagues who are on it. If you type in Black therapist, a Black therapist doesn't always come up. People who say they specialize in working with Black people will come up, which, because I did it myself. Like if I'm, telling people, if I'm sending people, I was like, let me, kind of look and see what's going on here. And I was very surprised to see that. I said, oh, okay, so like we're specialty for everybody, which, I find pretty interesting, but that might be another conversation. But that, just to be careful, like any of these, therapy platforms that we offer, that's something that can come up. And like what I tell everybody is, it's like almost like searching, it is like searching for a doctor. Just because we find this Black therapist, okay, the foot's in the door, but now it's on us to prove that we're competent, and to prove that, we are caring and empathetic and can meet that person where they are and actually help them. And you might not connect on that first visit or that first try with that therapist. So it might take you, I know for me, it took me 2 or 3 therapists to find a therapist that I really connected with and I feel like could help me. And that's different for me, because as a therapist, when I'm in the moment, I know exactly what I'm looking for here, and I have to remind myself, like, okay, don't try to control the process. Just let it be. Everybody has their different style and approach. It doesn't mean that it's effective. However, like, we know in our spirits when someone just isn't a good fit for us. So it might take some time. So again, psychology today, good therapy. I know there's therapy for Black girls. Even if you just do a Google search, I know I'm a part of a lot of Black therapist groups on Facebook. So when people are asking me for a Black, and this is all across the country, not just in Pittsburgh. So when people ask me for a Black therapist, if we don't have any openings, and I know the people that I like to refer, we have like a recommended referral list when people call and we're full, because we know how hard it is. So we want to give people referrals if we can. So if people reach out to me, just post very, vaguely, because we want to respect people's confidentiality, like in the groups, to see if anyone has any openings. And I'm always happy to provide any resources. But, I just want to validate how hard it is to find a Black therapist, because like we've become in pretty high demand. I appreciate a lot of celebrities and people with high status using their platforms to talk about their personal mental health journeys and how important it is, which has opened the door for people wanting to seek therapy. So it's like a good problem to have, and I hate it because when people want help, I want them to be able to receive help right away, because it takes a lot to actually get to that place to reach out and ask for help. There have been people who have said, like, it took me 6 months to finally like just work up the nerve to reach out, and now no one's available. And it's like, that makes me sad. So we can probably have another conversation about the reasons for like inaccessibility and why it's so hard. And I'll say it, a big part of the barrier are the insurance companies. Like, we're finding qualified therapists, but it's taking them long to get credentialed with insurance companies. We have insurance companies that a lot of people are credentialed with. It's taking our therapists like 6 to 9 months. So we have a therapist, but they can't get credentialed for 6 to 9 months. And most people need to use their health insurance. Not everybody can afford to pay out of pocket every week for therapy. So we offer health insurance, to kind of, help people, to help support people through this hard time. And when it takes so long to get these therapists credentialed, it, perpetuates that problem of
Yeah.
inaccessibility. It's a huge problem. And It sure hasn't gotten better. So that's one. That's just the main issue. There are so many other issues when it comes to like health insurance that are driving a lot of my colleagues in private practice who are Black, and some white ones too, and some other people of color, to say, I'm done with insurance companies, and then they stop accepting insurances, and it hurts the community.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate you sharing all of this. And one of the things that I really like was that you shared that, the first therapist didn't work. You went through a couple to find someone that understood your style, kind of find alignment. You don't hear a lot of that. You don't hear a lot of
Mhm.
people sharing. It's just like saying, go get a second opinion from a doctor.
Yes.
You don't hear
Yeah.
a lot of people saying that. So a lot of people do find themselves settling with that first
Yep.
individual. Um,
Yep.
so I really, really like. I mean, I be honest. I haven't heard many professionals just share that, and so
Mm.
that even was for me just like, yes, like
Yeah. Yeah.
seriously, because
You're not stuck with the first therapist, like, oh man, I don't like this person, but I guess I just got to stick with them. I mean, that's like torture and abuse week in and week out, when you're not feeling like your soul is being fed, or you're not getting anything out of it.
absolutely,
Yeah. And that speaks to the fact that we're not all a monolith. Like just because you find a Black therapist, I don't, they might be into rock and roll and other stuff, and you're just like, no, that's not my style. You have to
Yeah.
vibe with someone, and professionally, it's good to have someone that's credentialed and educated, and it doesn't speak to that. But I like what you said, if your soul isn't being fed,
hmm
then it's just not going to work. And
Yeah.
there's already a barrier, right, to access.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and so taking the opportunity to really to take care of you, and that's what we're talking about for caregiving. This is part of taking care of you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And research though shows there are three things that determine if people get better. And the number one is the relationship. Number one is relationship, number two is hope, and number three is skills. So we can have all the credentials and certifications, but if we're not connecting, it's going to be hard for people to heal, especially when we're talking about trauma. Compassion fatigue is a form of secondary trauma. So when people have experienced that level of trauma, even us as like caregivers and helping professionals, the first thing is you feel out of control. You didn't feel like you had control in the matter. You didn't feel safe. So if you're in this relationship with this professional and you're like, I just cannot vibe with this person, I'm not sure if I can trust them. I know they're competent. They've been doing this for a long time, but there's just something about this vibe that I'm not work. It's just not.
yeah,
hmm.
absolutely. I love that. Um, I think that a lot of people can, at least I hope a lot of people can get something from this. And like you said, like I think a lot of us in our practices are trying to figure out how do I mean, even for me in the work that I do, someone could sign up for the program but may not be able to be served for 6 months down the line
Yeah.
because and they just found out about like a lit like that is an example that I just experienced of meeting someone and the next week they're like, oh, I want to be a part. And I'm like, we just and so trying to also find that level of balance to make sure that you are being a service to as many as you can. Um,
Yeah.
and and then maybe not finding like that fatigue and that if you can't.
Hmm.
But I think from what I'm hearing from you is like what you shared about like the resources of the Facebook groups and things like that is like if you're a professional tapping into other resources that you can lean on when you are at
Yes.
capacity, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, we have to tap in. I know we talk a lot about self-care. Community care is a thing. There are some people who really need, I mean, all of us, and I try to be very careful with absolute words like all and always and never. In this case, like all of us do need some form of community care and safe people. I love that this show is called Safe Spaces, because like we heal in relation to other people. Like we don't heal alone.
mhm,
The relationship again, it goes back to relationships. Like it's all about relationships. That's how we heal. And it's interesting because a relationship or relationships could have been the thing that have caused the pain and the trauma, and the relationship is the thing that's going to help us heal.
I don't know if I believe in community and I believe in coming together to heal. But in listening to you, I didn't realize the power. And I didn't know, like research showed, it's like a number one thing to help you live
Yeah, and
on.
community could be this. There's 4 people. I think when some people think about community, they're thinking about like a whole like neighborhood where there's like 100 people just at your service, and we're like in this circle, this healing circle, and that could be, one way. Like community events could be healing for people. Having like your small circle where you're having a hard day, and you're just like, hey, I just need to download, I need to vent, and just knowing those people are there to listen to you, having those group chats. Like I love those. At the end of the day, like I could just complain and be and download, and it's a safe space for me. Like I'm not judged, I'm heard. And that's good, especially for worry about community care, but that's making me anxious, and breaking it down and letting them know that it doesn't have to be a whole lot of people. It can be whatever you choose or whoever you choose.
Yeah. I at at Open Up, there's a caregivers yoga class. And it's been really cool to see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they've really bonded. They've really come together. And I wish there was more like that,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and Wes, that could be a thing.
Need it. Like I know, even like for my colleagues, we need to relax. Like we are so used to like going, being in crisis, serving people. Like when I do the activity we do at the beginning of the workshop, it's a 3 minute. People struggle with that. Like I see people like tapping their foot, looking at their watch, like it's just really hard for them to be. And that's because we're constantly activated. The reactive part of our brain has to constantly like be on. We're performing under pressure, we're helping people in crisis, we're constantly in go mode and serve mode. That neurons that wire together fire together, so we get stuck there, we get locked into survival, and it becomes really hard to get to a place. It's like, you're telling me to relax, to be still, to tune into my body. Like what's that? Like I don't have time for that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So, Wes, you did the trail that we had to snatch you off of. Sharise is running a 5K tomorrow. I
Yeah, I
think
am.
I need to get my little booty outside.
I am. Yeah, so this is like for runners, it's like race season, because the temperatures, well, in this region, the temperatures are going to start to decrease. The humidity won't be as brutal as it has been. So yeah, I have 2 races in September, and I look forward to them because it's fun. The energy is good. Everybody's excited. We have this common goals. No matter what walk of life you come from, you can go there, and everybody's a winner. When you finish, you get that medal. And every people say, I do it. There's a saying, we do it for the bling. And then you have Medal Monday, where you can wear your medal. The next day you take a picture, like when the girls, we call each other our rumboos. When I start, and just a great community of women, of Black women, where we run together. I didn't even like running. Like I started doing this like when COVID hit and we were locked down and everything was closed. When they started talking about these races, and I'm like, why would I do that? I'm not paying to run in the streets when I could do that for free. Like it just made no sense to me at all. But I'm like, they're really excited. They travel, they go on trips, and they do this. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And I did. And I'm like, I actually like this. Like, so I found myself sounding just like them. And it's a great thing. So like, yeah, like obviously there are, benefits to it, but the main thing is, my mental health. It really helped me through some really hard times during COVID.
Oh, I love that. So I've been paralyzed since 2012, but I wasn't into fitness or anything until later on in life, after my injury. And when I did, one of the things that really like just set the tone was runs. I started to do 5Ks, 10Ks that were local. And again, like for me, I don't think I even understood what everyone else saw as a guy in a wheelchair pushing up these hills. I just loved it for the mental. I loved it for the community. I don't know if people understand, like, it's empowering to see other people like pushing themselves, trying to better themselves.
It's so inspiring.
So
I like to stand on the sidelines and like watch and cheer people. Like we did a booth for the half marathon if some of us aren't running, and we don't have any sponsors. Like all of this is donated, and we're just happy to cheer people on and like seeing them push through and handing out drinks and treats, because we know when you get to that 7th mile of a half marathon, like it's all mental. Like physically you can do it because you've had all the training, but you're in your head and it's like, I'm done with this race. Like,
especially when a hill comes up. When a hill comes up,
my God!
This morning,
I was ready to be done, and it was pouring down raining too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, I've done one run during the rain, and of course it was hard because the wheels were slippery.
I was gonna say it's muddy in the trail.
That's even more impressive.
But again, like, and I think that's why I get on trails every day too. Like I know my normal terrain as a wheelchair user. This is just what I need to do every day just to make sure that I can handle just daily life. So like,
I love that.
You know, so like if I'm pushing up a hill, it's really to just make sure that I can do it when I don't want to. Right. Like, and so, and again, like challenging to do those 5Ks and 10Ks was really something like I'm getting back at it now. And so that's my goal. So every day I do a 5K, about 3.2, right? Like, and so, and it's like trying to figure out like what my time is going to be. And so like yesterday, I was like, oh, I'll be back in the house in 37 minutes. I was telling my new fiance. Hey,
I was going to say
that. And I'm like, and I came back in 37 minutes. I'm like, well, I know my miles right now are about this. And so about 37 minutes, I can do a 5K. And so again, like that's how mentally I prepare myself to be able to do these runs and do these things too. And so, no, I love that. I highly recommend people, like you said at the beginning, not even about running, it's about movement. So I highly recommend everybody just getting out and moving in some capacity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
go for a walk. It doesn't even have to be a brisk fast. If you're a walker, just move and getting that. And then, you know, here's another, you know, research shows that movement is the best way to move stress and trauma through our bodies. Stress and trauma have to be metabolized through the nervous system. So when we do movement, when we're stretching, that's why yoga, trauma-informed yoga is so great, because we're moving that through our bodies. When we're walking, especially for people who have a lot of anxiety, you're tricking your brain into think you're flighting. And that's why it feels so calming, like after you do some type of movement. So movement is the best way. When I'm working with my clients, after 30 minutes of sitting, it's like, let's stand up, move around a little bit, because we've just been sitting and stagnant, and you know, we're processing trauma, we're processing some really hard things, and I'm watching your body language and you're tense like this. So let's do some type of movement, even if you sit down and wiggle your shoulders or move back and forth, but some type of movement.
So you're tricking your body. I love that. So when you're moving, your body's thinking you're in flight mode, and that's getting that out of your system.
So you're giving it what it needs. Yep.
Ooh, that's
think about how many people just are probably stressed out because they don't move at all. You sit in, like, I think about this in my position, how many times I've dealt with pain or trauma before I kind of knew how to maneuver through it. But as being someone that's paralyzed, you just sit in one place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's just because maybe you don't want to move because you got to push. And so it's like one of those, or just because you haven't thought about like lifting an arm up or moving your body in some way, but it creates that extra layer of stress because you're not finding a way to release it. You're finding a way to bring it in. And so I like the movement concept of releasing, because when you're just sitting, you're like, it's like steeping, right? Like with my tea, like it's like hit the boiling point.
Like that metaphor. Yeah.
And you explode, right? So,
no, that's good. And for a caregiver, I can see doing that in community with whoever you're caring for. Like, say they can't move, and it's like, well, I'm going to push you, or I'm going to move you and I'm going to move me. And that's so important, because you said something earlier about when we get so fatigued, we might do something that's unethical. You know, like we begin to, that's how abuse probably starts, because we can't release and let go. It's imperative to do that.
Because now we're just operating, we're functioning in like survival mode. And for some people, and I've gotten this argument, and I'll, entertain it to some degree, like you've been functioning there for so long. And just because we've been functioning in a place for so long doesn't mean that it's healthy. So we got to think about, you've been functioning there for 10 years. How much harm have you done from that unhealthy place? Just because you're used to it. What would it look like for you and the people you serve if you were able to make a shift and serve from, instead of a reactive man, a more reflective man? Now, I want to make this clear. There are times where we do need to be like in survival mode, like that's necessary, but we just don't need to live there. We should not be there for long periods of time.
Okay, this is good. This is great. I was telling Sharise West that one of our board members, she's real active with the caregivers in our community. And I would love to have Sharise come on, and maybe Wes, you could invite a couple of caregivers. We can invite a couple of caregivers. Maybe they could do a Q&A with you, Sharise, because it's real important that we recognize that part of our community and how they need to be served as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yep.
Okay, and so before we go, it's been a funny day. My computer's in and out. Wes on the trail. Back with us. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we know that you run. What are some things that you're listening to, that you're reading, that you're engaging in right now for you?
So Audible, like I use Audible. It's an app where you can listen to actual audibles of books. So sometimes on my walks, I walk every day, whether I run or not. If I just go for a 30-minute, and it's not to like get any benefits like, oh, I want to lose weight. It's for my mental health and just being in nature. So usually between 30 minutes and an hour, just depending on how much time I have. For the first like 10 to 15 minutes, I'm doing it with nothing, like with no audible, no music, just really taking in nature. And when I was advised to do that, when I used to work with a nutrition coach, I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I need music in my ear. I need some company of somebody, but I've come to appreciate it. I look forward to that quiet time. And then maybe like the last like 20, 30 minutes, I'll listen to something like what Wes was saying, something that's like inspiring, uplifting. Some of my favorite speakers that I follow, like I love Eric Thomas, I love Les Brown. Like those are some of my favorites. Like I'll fast on YouTube just to listen to like get me going, usually sometimes in the morning or during the middle of the day, because we have our energy dips. As far as books, I read a lot of business books and self-improvement books. A book that I'm reading right now that I think anybody could probably benefit from, I have it on Audible, it's called Humble Inquiry. I can't think of the author's name, but if you Google it, you'll find it on Amazon or YouTube. And he just talks about, and I've talked about this for years, I just didn't call it that, with the therapist I've supervised, and even in the reflective supervision groups that I run, I talk about being respectfully curious. I don't think we do that enough when we're listening to people and trying to listen to understand versus like listening to respond, and like really getting their story and having this like understanding and this compassion, this empathy, versus like, tell me your business. I'm just trying to get into this business. So just doing it from a place of truly being like interested in people, it helps with our communication patterns. And for those of you who like are entrepreneurs or are running businesses, a couple authors that I absolutely love are Mike Michalowicz. He wrote the book Profit First, and it's like changed the way that I approach money. You can use it in your personal life and in your business life. The way he breaks down the best way to like allocate your funds and your relationship with money and all of that. Like I've implemented those practices, and it's just made a world of a difference for me. And he has a lot of other
I did the same thing. I just got to go.
We got them credits, okay? I think I got
those credits up and they're free. You can listen to it over and over and over again. And as far as like, as far as like for like self-improvement and information on, like burnout, there's a book called Burnout, and it has a pink copy, and it's by Dr. Amelia and Emily. Like, it's hard for me to pronounce their last names and I don't want to mess it up, but it's probably the best book that I've read on burnout. I cite them in my they're the ones that coined the term human giver syndrome, the expectation and obligation for us to just give our whole selves to humanity and the people that we serve. Like, I referenced it from that book. I reference it in, pretty much every like workshop I run. That book was amazing. Like, they approach it from a systematic approach, and the way they break it down and the stories that they share. It's a great book.
Ooh, you just got knowledge.
I loaded both of them. They had one that was.
Gotta give myself a plug. Like 5 pillars. I'm giving all these plugs. I have a book. It's called The 5 Pillars of Self-Care, where I talk about the things that we need to really implement in our life. Basic self-care, our core values. Self-compassion, recovery, and boundaries. And it's a workbook, and it talks about those things, and it gives you the space to break those things down and do the work and implement some things. So it's a workbook, it's a journal, it's some things that you'll have to work on. But like we talked about earlier in the show, self-care is work. So that can be found on my website, sharicenance.com.
Okay, and we're going to share that, everyone. We have the newsletter that comes out every month, and usually about the third week, because we usually do it the Wednesday after that Sunday, but we'll put it out. And these books are a gem, especially, like Burnout, when we're talking about caregiving.
Yeah, that's a great book. It's long, but it's such a great read that it'll be hard for you to put down.
Well, Sharise, we're going to have you on again, and we're going to share this with you, Sharise, but Wes got engaged. Congratulations.
I love it. I love that.
Congratulations to you. Congratulations to her. And we are so excited.
That's amazing.
Smile says it all, Wes.
It does. Got that glow going on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do.
Yeah. So everyone have a great first day of the month. It's Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Month, right, Wes?
So just advocate for accessibility. Speak for the people that can get into your room. That's all you got to do.
That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. Listen, you both, congratulations on your run already in advance, Sharise.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Gosh, you shared so much knowledge. We're definitely going to make a plan to bring some caregivers on, if that's okay with you, and have them engage with you as well. So
okay, that sounds good.
That's good. Everyone who's live, we'll see you all soon.
Okay, take care.